welcome back to another Buffalo pregame Bills edition. It is another version of our draft preview. Dan, so glad to have you with us here back in Studio A. And it's Buffalo pregame. It's another draft. And doing my best to work up the excitement, because the Sabres are super good and the Bills feel like they've taken a back seat after a difficult playoff exit. And the Sabres are filled with nothing but hope. But here's the draft come around again to drag us back to the football reality and the doldrums of which the Bills have left us in as they're in a series of change. With the draft coming up, one of the biggest differences in the franchise, of course, is a new head coach. Do you expect any big differences, like the draft style with Brady at the helm versus McDermott?
Yeah, one would have to assume that former offensive coordinator, now the head coach, that he's going to be a little bit more aggressive offensively. I expect them to probably try and definitely add some pieces to help Josh Allen this year, whether it's on receivers or offensive line. I definitely think they're going to go for offense.
Which is funny because the free agency was more focused on the defense. Do you think that after the free agency moves and there's more that needs to be addressed defensively, or do you think they made those moves defensively specifically because of that, because they intend to use more draft capital on the other side of the ball?
Yeah, I think they definitely added some good pieces while losing Adrian Epenesa, obviously, but, adding a defensive end and then, CJ Gardner-Johnson as well. I think they've added some good pieces defensively.
So there's room for improvement on the offense. Do you think there's a lot of pressure on Brandon Beane for this to be like his draft, for him to make his mark this time around, seeing as he survived the Great Purge?
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone's going to be seeing, what he's going to do, what moves he's going to make at the draft, because, obviously they picked him over McDermott. So now he's going to have to make sure to get a team together. And, if he doesn't make the right decisions, someone might start to ask if he's on the hot seat.
I know I mentioned this at the end of last season, but with Kevyn Adams firing and how good that turned around, Brandon Beane's got to be feeling some pressure just within the organization, that the ownership doesn't have to look too far, for example, of the firing of a GM mid-season to make a big influence on the performance of the team. As you view the Bills, considering the defensive adds that we made in free agency, what do you consider our top needs to be?
I think they're definitely going to need a wide receiver, offensive tackle. Definitely have to add to the offensive line. Keep making sure that Josh Allen's protected. They might need to see what if they need to add at linebacker as well. And then I think they're definitely gonna have to keep adding to that offense and go from there.
I forget whose turn it is to go first in their prediction, so I'm going to take the bold step of making our prediction. And I believe if I'm right this time, it'll be the first time we've ever made a correct prediction. So I would hesitate before making your bets, everyone. But putting it out there, I'm going to go with a long shot, have a cornerback fall. Jermod McCoy from Tennessee falls and becomes available in the 26th spot. And not so much what we exactly need, maybe a receiver, but when there's a good player available, Beane can't pass it up. What do you think? Leaving you some wide receivers there.
Yeah, so I think like I mentioned, I think they're definitely gonna go with a wide receiver. I'm thinking Denzel Boston. I'm hoping he'll still be there at later in the first round. So I think McDermott. Not to say he was one who went into drafting Coleman. Obviously, that was Beane as well. But you try with Coleman. We'll see if that's gonna pan out. But last year I had Max Hairston on defense, so I think they're going to go offense again and go with Denzel Boston.
All right, there you go. Well, if it does happen, you heard it here first, and we'll take 10% of your winnings if you land the bet. Thank you so much, Dan, for being here and record Buffalo Bills pregame in person for our draft preview, because we will be doing the review next. It's just crazy that I'm seeing the tulips bloom, and we're talking football already. It's become a year-long sport here in the NFL, and we look forward to seeing y'all again real soon in Buffalo pregame, because we're not going anywhere.
And in 5, 4, 3.
And welcome back to yet another Buffalo Bills pregame show. Oh, can we start that
Yeah,
over again?
please.